Hello, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for our RAD Project Celebration webinar. We're so excited to be sharing all about our amazing RAD cohort and the work that everyone's been doing over this journey of the last 7 months. So first, we want to do some introductions. My name is Kanisha. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the program lead for the RAD cohort. I'm joined by Ray, who's our program coordinator for the RAD cohort, as well as Suman, who's a program lead at Youth Climate Lab. So we're also excited to welcome you here. We invite you to share in the chat who you are, where you're calling from. If you don't know the name of the traditional lands that you're on, feel free to use nativeland.ca to find out. I'm calling in from Toronto, on the ancestral territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga peoples. And also, if you feel like it, we'd love to know the last time you did something in community, whether that was helping out a neighbor, welcoming Lunar New Year, reading a book to learn about something. Um, yeah, me personally, I've been connecting with my neighborhood riding association and doing some organizing my community. So that's been something that I've been tapped into recently. But we'd love to hear from you, who you are, where you're calling from, and something in your community lately, if you feel like sharing in the chat. Well, a little bit about some access and engagement tools for the next hour we're together. Auto captioning is available through Zoom. Should be on the bottom toolbar. You can turn that on. And we welcome you to engage throughout this webinar. So you can use emoji reactions. We have the chat, of course. And if you need support, whether you're having a tech issue or you have an access need that isn't being met, feel free to direct message either me, Ray, or Suman. We all have YCL in our names if you forget, and we can support there. Cool. So this will be our little agenda for the time that we're here. So we have 6 of our amazing speakers from the RAD cohort that'll be sharing about their projects, the work they've been doing over the past 7 months with the RAD cohort program. And really today is all just about celebrating the work that they've been doing, celebrating the hours they've put in, all the connections they've made, and really the growth and the progress and learning that's happened throughout this time. And then we'll do some celebrations and some closing out. So first we want to start a little bit about recapping RAD and what's happened. And it's been a journey for the past 7 months. So since August 2023, we have first held 7 learning modules covering topics from climate justice, multi-solving, project development, and using art and creative thinking for equity-centered solutions, really focusing on being designed by community and for community. We've also had 10 peer-to-peer circles. These are a chance for our cohort to connect with each other and other youth from coast to coast to coast and building solidarity with our 24 youth in the cohort. We've also had 4 national webinars to showcase and explore climate emotions, art as climate justice, and the current landscape of the 2030 agenda with folks worldwide and open to the public. Our youth have engaged in mentorship. So we've matched our youth participants with one of 12 mentors, and through that they could learn from other youth leaders advancing the SDGs and climate action in various ways in their communities and around the world. And then lastly, our RAD cohort has been busy doing projects. I think we tabbed it up and it was something like 16 out of 17 of the SDGs our projects have touched in some way or another throughout. So they've been putting in an enormous amount of hours, creating so many community connections and really advancing the SDGs in their communities. And it's been incredible work that they've been doing. So we're so excited to give you a little peek, a little snapshot of it with 6 of our participants out of 24 sharing their projects and all that they've accomplished and done over the past few months. We also have other RAD cohorts members who are joining us today who aren't presenting and really want to shout them out and also name the work that they've been doing. And if you're curious to learn about their projects, we've been sharing little summaries and little highlights on our Instagram. So I invite you to go check that out. And we'll also be housing that on our website in the future too. But we really want to celebrate them too, even if they're not presenting today. Yeah, so without further ado, I want to take it into the good stuff, which is learning about our projects and our participants. Um, these are our fantastic speakers for this evening. So we have Caitlin talking about right to repair, Sasha talking about microplastics, Cash talking about trash to treasure, Haley, Jana, and Jordan. So they'll each be talking for about 5 to 7 minutes about their projects. If you have any questions or things that come up as they're talking, we invite you to put it in the chat. And then if they have time at the end, they can address them or they can type back in the chat as we go through, because we only have an hour, unfortunately. So can't do a ton of that, but we still want to have that engagement there too. So yeah, feel free to emojis. We love emojis. Use the chat. Ask any questions or just show appreciation for their projects and the really cool and amazing things they've been doing. Well, I'll pause here if anyone has any questions. I see lots of introductions in the chat, which is amazing. Cool. Looks like things are good. So with that, I will invite our first speaker up, Caitlin, to talk about her project. Everyone, virtual round of applause for Caitlin.
Before I begin, can everyone hear me? Cool. Always good to double check. All right, so my name is Caitlin. I live in Saskatoon, and for my RAD project, I chose to run a waste reduction and right to repair workshop. So the reason why I wanted to focus on waste reduction is because I've become really concerned about the mass consumerism that we've been experiencing for many years now. If you go into any mall in any center across Canada, you'll see lots of stores and lots of businesses pushing you to buy more stuff all the time. And this is becoming a really big problem. According to the Government of Canada, Canadians produce the highest waste per person per year compared to other countries. This means that we're throwing away a lot of things into our landfills, and that has a really detrimental impact on our local environments. We also often throw away items that could easily be repaired. However, we often lack the resources to repair them, or we simply don't know that it's even an item that can be repaired. And so I really wanted to run a workshop around waste reduction right to repair, just to shift people's perspectives and bring awareness to people about why it's really important we try to reduce our waste and why we should retain our ability to repair our consumer goods. I also wanted to increase within my local community the different resources that are actually available to us here in Saskatoon. So my workshop was meant to address two sustainable development goals. The first being responsible consumption and production, which is us effectively managing our resources so we don't sacrifice the needs of today or the needs of people in the future. And the second sustainable development goal I want to address was sustainable cities and communities. And that goal is all about reducing the negative environmental impact that urban communities often have as they become bigger and more people go into one space. And it's really important in cities and communities that you have an effective waste management system in order to be sustainable and reduce the negative impact on the local environment. So now I'll go into what I actually did with my workshop. So for my workshop, there were two halves to it. The first half was a panel, and the second half, participants had the opportunity to learn how to repair their own clothes. So I'll talk about the first half of my workshop first. So for my panel, I had 4 panelists. They were representatives from the Library of Things, YXC, Saskatchewan Waste Reduction Council, Makerspace, and City of Saskatoon. Each of these organizations contribute to waste reduction or promoting repair of consumer goods within Saskatoon, and they've done lots of local initiatives also within the province. So we talked a lot about different things on the panel, but I just want to highlight some main themes that came up. One of the biggest things that came up was that recycling is not the answer. In fact, it should be the very, very last step in a waste management system. The reason why is because recycling devalues a product, which means that sure, if we recycle something, we can use it for a few more years. However, because it's devalued and it's not as good quality as when it was new, it's only delaying the inevitable putting it into the landfill by a little bit. Another main theme that came up was the importance of municipal governments in implementing programs that help people to reduce and divert their waste. Municipal governments play a huge role in encouraging people at a local level to properly divert and manage their waste. And they also play a huge role in managing waste so that it doesn't create pollution within the local environment. And so municipal government programs are actually quite important to solving this issue. Another main theme that came up is why we even need to repair. And the reason why is because when we repair an item, we more or less restore it to the way it was when we first got it, which means that we can vastly extend its life for far longer compared to if we had recycled the item. However, we often can't repair our items because often a lot of companies will actually try to actively prevent us from repairing our consumer goods. And this becomes an issue because then we simply just can't repair our items, and it just ends up in the landfill because sometimes it costs more to repair than it is to replace the item. And finally, another really important theme that came up was the value in learning how to repair our own things. There is actually a lot of value in learning how to repair your own things, and there's lots of things you can repair at home, like for instance, clothing. And by learning how to do that, you can really gain a valuable skill and really add to your quality of life. So speaking of that, I'll go into the second half of my workshop, which was about teaching participants how to repair their own clothes. So in the second half of my workshop, I had 4 sewing teachers come in, and they taught participants how to hem, how to sew on their own button, how to repair a seam, and if participants brought their own clothes to be repaired, the 4th teacher would teach them how to repair the clothing item that they had brought in. Overall, this second half of the workshop went really well, and I received a lot of really great feedback from participants. And all of my sewing teachers were retirees, and many people who participate in this portion of the workshop within their 20s or 30s. And it was just really great to see such a great exchange of knowledge between different generations, and so many people are enthusiastic to learn this very basic skill that allows you to extend the life of your clothing and also save you a lot of money while also being environmentally friendly. Through this workshop and project, I learned a lot of lessons. One of the biggest lessons I learned was how to leverage communities I'm already a part of. It just felt so great to be able to rely on these communities I've contributed to over the years and ask them to come in and help me realize my own project and have it come to life. And so I just really learned through this project how to leverage communities I'm already a part of and to realize the resources that I already have at hand. Another major lesson I learned was that even small projects like this one can have a community impact. I had about 20 to 30 people show up to my workshop, which is a really good crowd. And even though it's only 20 to 30 people, that's another 20 to 30 people who know more about why it's important we reduce our waste, why it's important we have right to repair laws, where we can maintain our ability to repair our items. And they can take that knowledge and they can pass it on to their students, their family, their friends, anyone within their communities. And it kind of goes just beyond this one workshop. And so it was really neat to see that even small projects like this one can actually have quite a big community impact. And finally, another lesson that I learned was that many people want to take climate action, but they just aren't sure where to start. As I'm sure everyone here knows, climate change is a very complicated issue, and often people can feel overwhelmed. But projects like these can help them to start somewhere and can show what they can do. And it shows that we're all capable of climate action, and that even something as simple as learning how to repair clothes can make a difference. And so that's just an overview of what my project was about, and thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you, Caitlin. Little virtual round of applause. I really love that last part you're talking about, like how something simple and something small can still be something tangible. And I think that also feeling of being able to, do something tangible and that intergenerational connection that you also fostered with it is really special. So thanks so much. Great. I'd love to introduce our next speaker, Sasha, to talk about her project.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Sasha, and I am a part of YCL for this year. I'm currently a student at the University of Ottawa, completing my undergraduate degree in biomedical science and environmental policy. With that, I have found a great interest with microplastics and what this does for our health and the environment. So for my project, I facilitated a webinar where I had 6 phenomenal speakers all come in and share ways to mitigate plastic consumption, ways to reuse plastic, and how we can avoid, again, just overall the infiltration of microplastics in the environment. So a little bit background to microplastics. you may be asking. So they are essentially everywhere. I mean, my water bottle is plastic, unfortunately. And with that, when over time it just slowly deteriorates and becomes smaller and smaller, and companies are putting chemicals and preservatives onto the plastic to prolong its life. Similar to what Caitlin was saying, this is what happens after it's disposed of, and it just slowly withers away with deterioration of wind and solar UV. So where does it go after? It goes into the waters, it goes into our environment. Plants, they have found, are uptaking the plastic particles in the soil. Fish are eating it, and then it ends up in our systems. So what really had sparked my interest was when we ingest these plastic particles, what exactly happens to us? Is it going into our systems? Are we even metabolizing it? And a lot of studies are coming out to find that there are certain issues with health and microplastics and how it affects genes and mutations and things like that. So there is a lot of novel research that we're still looking into and figuring out. It's still so new as a topic. And so with my webinar, I hosted. There were a wide variety of speakers who joined us. A few were from different organizations. Others were master students who were sharing their research and ways that their projects have helped mitigate this topic and this issue. And there was also one speaker from the University of Ottawa, and their company does sorry, I'm just reading the chat, but it's not for me. Their company, they reuse the plastic and create art and different infrastructure with it. So one thing from RAD that was really amazing was, first of all, just the team. Everyone is phenomenal. It was great being a part of such a welcoming group of young individuals who are pushing for change, which is what we really need in this day and age. Because it seems like with older generations, they're just leaving it for us to take care of, which is unfortunate and it's not fair. So to see that we have a fantastic group, a very diverse group of people who are interested in different parts of climate change is fantastic. One thing I learned from my project, I was amazed to see that there is a group of people who are also willing to learn more about microplastics, as it seems like, again, this is a very novel topic and a lot of people aren't familiar with it. So the fact that people are eager to learn and know more is reassuring for me that there is a potential to have more conversation on this, and so we can actually push for policy to reduce plastic consumption in society and consumerism. And I was really glad that I could do a virtual workshop, as I was able to have more, like anyone can come in and join. And we also uploaded it to the YCL YouTube, so you can check that out after if you'd like, where we talked about a lot of great things. And yeah, it was a great experience, and I'm hoping that everyone who is interested in climate injustice and advocacy should definitely reach out to see and experiment with what type of subject with climate is for you, because honestly, everything around the world is dependent on the environment. So whatever you are interested in, there's definitely a way to link it back and create a meaningful project out of it that definitely somebody in your community is willing to also get on board with and touch base with you to help facilitate that. So yeah.
Thanks, Sasha. Another virtual round of applause. I mean, your workshop was amazing. And I think you got so many awesome speakers that each came to like microplastics from like a different perspective. And I think they also did a really good job of like making it understandable. Like I think it could get pretty complex, but I think they really brought it down and made it, yeah, and I think provide something tangible, like what do we do next? And like kind of that hope was awesome. Well, thank you. Cool. I'd love to invite our next speaker, Cash, to come talk about his project.
Hi everyone, I'm Cash and I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and um this this project was so I do watch my own carbon footprint. I've been doing that for a couple of years. A long time ago there was a challenge going on where people wanted to kind of put all the waste that they generate in a mason jar. And I did that, and I realized how hard it was to kind of minimize the waste that we were generating. So I tried that for a couple of months, and the mason jar was about to explode with the waste. It was mostly just wrappers of um, anything like bread or a pack of biscuits or something like that. So that kind of inspired me to kind of watch my carbon footprint. So I try to shop at places at local places where I can take my own mason jars and buy stuff and reduce the amount of plastic that I buy. And RAD gave me the opportunity to kind of share one of the things that I love doing, which is also composting the organic waste that we generate in our kitchen and from our yards. So what I do is I do compost my waste, and I wanted to share that knowledge or that skill with people around me in the community so people can use that. We generate about 47% of the household waste that we generate is compostable, and it can be diverted from the landfills. Once that food waste ends up in landfills, it turn into methane, and which is 25% more damaging to our environment, more than carbon dioxide. And if we're talking about carbon dioxide, we generate about 9.8 million tons of carbon dioxide from just the food waste that we generate in Canada. So composting with cash is it's a workshop where I'll be teaching people on how to make a composter on their own. So I'll give them the supplies and everything. People will make their own composter at the workshop, and then they will learn how to take care of it and what are the measurements for greens and browns they need to add to it to keep it running. And because it's a vermicomposting system, there will be worms involved in that, the red wigglers. And I'm targeting people from all ages. Also, kids have shown a good interest in that. So I have people registered. It's happening on March 3rd. I have people registered with their kids. So I'm looking forward to it. Basically, we'll just teach them how to build a composter, keep it in their house or in their backyard, depending on the weather, and then they will be able to divert the 47% of the waste they generate in their households. And couple of things I think that I learned from the project is how many people who are interested in fighting against climate change, but they don't know where to start, how to do it. They need someone to hold their hand. So there are a lot of people who have already reached out to me about doing this workshop in their school or with their or just teach their kids on how to do that. There are so many people who want to get into it, but they have no clue how to do it. So yeah, thank you YCL for giving me that platform, I guess, to spread the word and give people the skill to reduce their carbon footprint. It's happening on March 3rd. If anybody is in Winnipeg, do come join. The address is on the screen. I'll be there and you can take away a free composter.
Some virtual flaws. Thank you so much, Cash. And again, I think your project is one of those things where it's, taking something that's, everyone can kind of get their hands on and like talking about kids too. I think it's awesome that kids can get engaged and there's so much to learn. Um, Yeah, and I know we talked about like having pet worms as like a draw for kids, so I think that's fun too, learning from that. Awesome. Cool. I will next. More slides about this. Learn, come join, kids welcome, register online, and about cash here. Going back, love to welcome our next speaker to talk about her project, Haley.
Right, so I'll just follow that up. Can I screen share possibly?
Of course. Let me stop my share.
Thank you. So, do you see like the purple page?
Yes, it looks
Okay,
gorgeous.
thank you. So, Welcome to Earth, that is my project, and the focus is climate change through Nakoto Sioux lens. So, I'm going to show you what that means to me. So in the Nakota Sioux perspective, we understand that everything is interconnected. Climate change is a disruption in this balance. It's vital that we grasp its impact. Imagine our Earth as a sacred hoop, a continuous cycle. Climate change at its core is a disturbance to the sacred hoop. It affects our weather patterns, ecosystems, and the delicate dance of life. By simplifying these ideas, we empower ourselves to make a difference. In Nakotosu teachings, we find guidance in Inamakoche, or Mother Earth. Just as nature strives for balance, so must we. By reconnecting with the Nakotosu way of life, we honor the wisdom embedded in Inamakoche and work towards restoring harmony within our environment. So, why did I choose specifically to aim this project at youth? For Indigenous youth, understanding their culture and teachings is a powerful tool. It not only provides a sense of identity, but equips them to be stewards of the land, or wakamne. By sharing this knowledge, we empower the next generation to carry forth the teachings of balance and sustainability. And why did I choose this project? So, as a youth, I felt very disconnected from my community and my culture. I knew that I wanted to reconnect, and I believe that the best way to do that is to deepen my understanding of my community, my culture, and climate change. I had the opportunity to intern in comms at another organization called Indigenous Climate Action and found my passion for working with Indigenous youth, both within and outside climate change. And so that brought me to the idea of reaching out to youth in my own community on interest. And I'm happy to say there are some youth within my community that are interested in learning more about climate change. So that makes me very excited for the future. And to end it off, what my project is a social page hoping to simplify and demystify what climate change is while also teaching the cultural teachings. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Haley. Another virtual round of applause. I think what's so exciting about your project is the potential it has, and like this is just the beginning for it, which I think is really, really exciting. So everyone, the link is in the chat. Please go follow it. And I'm so excited to see what blooms and what blossoms from your project and what happens next. So exciting. So let me get back to our slides and we'll invite up our next speaker. So I'd like to next call up Jana to talk about her project.
Thank you, Kanisha. I will share my screen as well, similar to Haley. Awesome. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I don't know if we see the presenter view yet, though. It's just the Canva view.
There's a little bit of a lag in my connection, so that might. Oh, just a second. I think I know the reason. Sorry, let me try again. Apologies.
All good.
Hmm. Okay, I'll just share a desktop view then. Great. You see the slides? Okay.
Yes, looks beautiful.
Awesome. Okay. Sorry about that. That's the first time that happens. Um, so hi everyone. My name is Jana Radi Mohammed, and I'm also part of the RAD cohort for this year. I'm also a second-year Masters of Health Sciences candidate at the University of Toronto in the Translational Research program. And I bring this up because I'm actually part of a capstone team, and we have focused our graduation project around wildfires, which have been increasing in severity and length due to climate change. There is a link with that, and specifically looking at the air pollution from the smoke and how it impacts the health of wildland firefighters. And we came across the RAD cohort actually that YCL presents, and we found that it aligns really well with the philosophy of how we are engaging with our project in terms of centering lived experiences and also using creative thinking tools, which we kind of wanted to incorporate more in our master's project, given that the three of us come from very kind of scientific academic backgrounds, creativity sometimes we miss. So the RAD really brings that very interesting element of dynamic thinking, creative problem solving, and lots of very inspirational ways of kind of creating change that we wanted to really incorporate in our project. And to kind of give a little bit of context before I go into the project, just around wildfires. So this is a map that is on the NASA website, actually mapping the occurrence of wildfires around the world. And you can see this is last month in January that wildfires are still occurring all around the world, from Canada to America to Brazil, in Africa, Asia, and Australia. And even so this is a map of last year in the summer. The wildfires you can see are intense in many parts of the world as well. However, I also wanted to mention that fire is actually a natural phenomenon in the Earth system, and it's shaped the landscape of many biomes for millions of years. The problem is that it's no longer a season, and it's now becoming a year-long occurrence due to climate change with warmer months. And that's impacting many things, such as more readily available dried vegetation that acts as a fuel source. So when a fire starts, there's kind of more fuel available for it to spread. And also the weather conditions kind of make fires more conducive to occur with warmer and drier days. And with that, I move on to the people at the core of fighting the fires in the Canadian context and all around the world, actually, wildland firefighters. So we wanted to center our project on them, and we've reached out to them to learn more about their lived experiences. And we learned that they're exposed to smoke for 16 hours a day for 6 months, and they wear minimal respiratory protection, actually minimal to no respiratory protection, and their gears are contaminated due to the exposure to the smoke, which impacts the health of their health due to increased risk of skin absorption of these pollutants. Another gap was that there were no resources or knowledge sharing around smoke pollution and its impact on their health and well-being. And that's actually the gap that we wanted to tackle. And that's my next slide. So this is our project with the support of the RAD process, is to tackle this gap in knowledge and resource sharing around smoke pollution. And we did this through a storybook. We weren't sure of the format initially. We were actually thinking of educational modules, but throughout the process of RAD, we were introduced to more creative ways of sharing knowledge, such as storybooks. And it actually aligned really well with the lived experiences of the wildland firefighters, as they naturally within the team dynamics already had a culture of peer-to-peer training and sharing stories. And so it fit really well with their lived experiences too. And we hope with this project that we tackle improving health and well-being and also reducing inequalities, making information and knowledge and evidence that's been published in the literature more accessible and digestible in a way that is also usable. So for the process, we had 3 phases during the RAD process. The first, we did a literature review. We also did a lot of outreach to wildland firefighters. They were our main community, and occupational health and safety experts as well, to kind of guide the process and make sure that we're incorporating proper evidence. And the second phase included drafting the first story and also sharing it back to our community members, so the wildland firefighters, the occupational health and safety experts. And we made sure that the information reflected lived experiences and evidence before we shared it to the designers to be able to create graphics for the story. And then once the designers had the graphics ready, we shared it back to the wildland firefighters and the experts to make sure that it reflected their lived experiences. And so we made sure it was a very collaborative and iterative process of research. And happy to share the draft. It's not complete yet. It's actually taking longer than expected. There's a lot of changes that we need to make, and it's a very iterative process. We had an initial idea of how it was going to look like, and then once we shared it with the wildland firefighters, we got even more feedback. And so we really want to make sure that this is usable and that it's impactful. And so we're kind of taking our time with the feedback and making sure that this is something that can kind of last. So the story follows 2 kind of fictional figures, Ash and Phoenix, and kind of goes through their story of a day in the life of the wildland firefighter. And Ash and Phoenix go through smoke pollution and how it impacts health and well-being, and they kind of talk about evidence in a light and kind of story format. And we also include actions that could be taken to protect our protectors, as we call it. And lastly, just to make sure I'm not going over time, which I think I am, I'm not timing. But takeaways from the RAD cohort, first of all, creative thinking, 100%. There were so many interesting and creative ideas that were shared throughout the whole process, which really shaped our thinking and carved our process 100%. And the second thing is centering the people at the core of the problem, making sure that that happens through collaborations and kind of getting feedback. And lastly, also, which was reflected through the previous cohort members as well, the safe space and support system that was created through the RAD cohort was incredible, not just for brainstorming, but also kind of sharing different ideas, different perspectives. There was a lot of inspiration that was taken from the peers, and also just a safe space to process all of the emotions that come with learning about climate change. And for that, I'm also very thankful. And yeah, that is all. I thank you for your attention. And this is also our project email. If anyone is interested for more information or collaborations, feel free to shoot us an email. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jana. And I know people are giving you kudos in the chat, but I think what's special about your project is that it's so, I think, relevant to all of us, whether you live in a community it has been impacted and still impacted by wildfires, or you live somewhere else where you're getting all the wildfire smoke. I think it's so relevant and such cool to see a snapshot of the storybook as it is so far. So it's awesome. Cool. I will get back to our slides and to invite up our final presenter, Jordan, to talk about her project.
Thank you, Kanisha. Do you have my slides? Yes, you do. Perfect. Yes, hi everyone. My name is Jordan. I use she, her pronouns. I am a program coordinator at the New Brunswick Environmental Network. I'm based in Moncton, New Brunswick. And I'm really excited to tell you a little bit more about my RAD project, Envisioning Sustainable Future Cities in Mi'kma'ki. But first, I would like to say that this project was developed in Moncton, New Brunswick, where I am currently located, on the unceded traditional homelands of the Mi'kmaq, but submissions were collected from all across Mi'kma'ki, which includes what's currently known as Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland, and most of, but not all of, New Brunswick. as well as the territories of the Wastaquaik and Fredericton, New Brunswick. I am very grateful to the Indigenous peoples who continue to steward these lands so that they are a safe place for us to work, play, and live. There's no sustainable city without reconciliation with Indigenous peoples and upholding their inherent rights in everything we strive to do in building sustainable cities and a more sustainable future. So, why this project? Well, cities are where 56% of the world's population currently lives, according to the World Bank, and this number is set to increase even more in the years to come. So cities play a huge role in contributing to climate change, but also have a huge potential to help address climate change. Provinces in the Maritimes are no exception to this. They are very deeply entrenched in the fossil fuel industries, which contribute directly to climate change. But they are also very highly susceptible to changes in sea level, changes in storm frequencies, and other impacts of climate change. Cities here are going to need to adapt, change, and develop more sustainably in order to prepare for this and decrease their contributions to a changing climate. These are all things that interest me and that I think about a lot, as a lot of the things that I would like to see improve in my city to make it more accessible and affordable for me and other youth would also make it more sustainable. There's a lot of folks already doing work on climate change adaptation in the province, but nothing really specific to cities that I've been able to find, and definitely not as much stuff involving youth as I would like to see. So that's kind of what led me to doing this project. If you can switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. So with this all in mind, I decided to seek out 12 youth participants aged 18 to 30 across the Maritimes to radically envision a better future for their city by 2030 by completing a submission in the medium of their choice. This could have been some sort of art piece, a creative essay, or a more technical piece, whatever allowed the participants to best share their thoughts and emotions around this topic. All selected participants were provided with an honorarium to compensate for the time and effort that they put into their submissions. And in the end, I had 2 youth from PEI, 1 from Newfoundland, 3 from New Brunswick, and 6 from Nova Scotia, who were chosen by me from their applications in a Google form to create a submission. And the majority of the youth who participated did identify as a part of a more marginalized community. I provided the participants with some simple guidelines and resources about sustainable development and sustainable cities, and some prompts to kind of get them thinking about the topics a little bit. But they were encouraged to kind of think outside those prompts and the available resources to radically envision what their city would look like by 2030 without paying attention to the typical kind of constraints. Next slide, please. Thank you. So yeah, they touched on a very wide variety of topics in their submissions. And I, have all of the submissions put together in a report that I created that you can go and look at. But these are just some general kind of themes that I saw across all of the submissions that I'll just kind of go through really quickly. So active transportation was one, and a lot of you've mentioned wanting to shift their cities from being car-centric to emphasizing different forms of active transportation, like can't speak today, walking and biking, and also an increased presence and reliability of public transportation in their cities. You've mentioned community engagement a lot, and having communities be actively involved in decision-making and policy creation processes, and given kind of that power and autonomy in what happens in their communities, as well as Indigenous peoples should be given a strong voice in the future development of cities. And they also mentioned how climate education and access to jobs in the green economy could help folks to become engaged in sustainable development. Waste reduction was mentioned a few times, so zero waste communities and establishing circular economies in their cities. Sustainable urban planning, so this refers to retrofitting existing buildings, having more affordable housing developments, and creating mixed developments in cities that allow for easier and equitable access to green spaces, to local food, and any other kind of necessary services within a reasonable distance of where people live. Green infrastructure, so having more hiking trails, walking paths, urban gardens in cities, more green infrastructure like green roofs or green walls on buildings. They mentioned protecting existing green spaces from development that are within cities, and then also just creating more equitable access to green space for all communities all across their cities. And then finally, renewable energy. So switching from to renewable sources of energy like wind and solar, and then also having affordable, accessible, and equitably distributed sources of energy to people in cities. And yes, this is one of the submissions that I received for my project. There were so many good submissions. There are poems, there are collages. Somebody did like a front page of a newspaper. And then there's also more opinion pieces and kind of technical pieces. But this is one from Natalie W., who lives in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. She put together this beautiful map of a future Dartmouth and she envisions her city looking like in 2030 and some of the different elements that it would be made up of. So she mentions things like local grocers, ecological forestry, lower energy consumption, more bike lanes, more ferry service, farmers markets, urban farms, and so much more. And I think she did a really great job. This is a very beautiful map. And she also put together a little write-up to kind of explain the map a little bit more and just kind of share some of her thoughts and ideas as she created it. That is included in my report with her submission. And I highly recommend that you go and check that out alongside all of the other really, really great submissions. Yeah, that is everything that I wanted to share. I believe someone might be sharing a link to my full report in the chat that you could go take a look at, which I highly recommend that you do, because everybody who submitted something did a really great job and put a lot of thought into it. And I'm really happy with the final report that came together. And yeah, there's an Instagram page that I made for the project that you can check out. And the report is also on my LinkedIn, and you can email me if you have questions or want a copy of the report sent to you as well. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jordan. I think it's that map that you shared is so cool, and I'm so excited to look at the full report and see all the other projects there. But I think that's really exciting to see. And I really love projects that focus on that, that hope and like envisioning and like having that clear vision of what we're working towards, and then going back from there, being like, what does it take to get there? So I think that's so fantastic and so exciting. Cool. I'm seeing lots of love and support in the chat for all of our projects. I know we've been dropping links on like where to access things and where to follow folks, but I invite our 6 speakers too, if you have links you want to drop, or like you want to share your LinkedIn if people want to follow up, or you want to share other things, calls to action, I welcome you to pop those in the chat for folks to follow up with. And also for folks here, our Instagram for Youth Climate Lab has summaries of all of our projects, and we'll be sharing more in the coming few weeks as people's projects finish up and they get those full things ready to share out. So with that,
super. Yeah.
And
and so that's a wrap on our 2023 RAD Cohort program. It's amazing to see all of the work that people have put in. So a huge thank you to all the participants for their continued commitment, dedication, passion, insights, and learning. from everybody at YCL. We're so inspired by your projects and just so thrilled to see all that you've accomplished, and cannot wait to see all that you continue to do and how these projects continue to unfold within your communities and abroad. And can we get one more round of applause for our incredible participants who presented on the projects today? It was lovely to see all of those updates. It's crazy to think of just how far everything's come along, especially in August, starting as a call all strangers, and now to see everybody so confident in their work and happy to share that with others is just so beautiful to see that growth. And a huge shout out to all of our other participants. Like Kanisha said, we have an Instagram where we're showing all of those highlights from folks who have run projects. So huge shout out to all of them who have designed and implemented projects within their communities. And lastly, this program would not be possible without the collaboration of all of our mentors, some of which who are in this call this evening. It's wonderful to see you all. The 4Rs Youth Movement, who collaborated with us in order to design and deliver this program, as well as our funders, Wawanisa Insurance, Community Foundations of Canada, and the Kinda Service Corps. All of them have made this possible. So thank you to everyone for being here as well this evening. It was wonderful to see all of you.
Another huge thank you. Save those links in the chat, and yeah, follow our Instagram too. If you miss any links, we'll be sharing more there and on our website. But with that, a huge